Welcome once again to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture, a pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast where we focus on various aspects of video games as well as other issues and topics within gaming in general. Hello, and welcome back to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture, and I'm Scott Thurlow here in the corridors of the Raccoon City Police Department with my survivors, Stephen Amosi.
Watch out for Mr. X.
Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Mr. X is going to give it to you.
He always will. And Chris Morgan.
Do you have any of the green herb?
I'm all out of that, son. Sorry, I mixed it with the red. But yes, tonight we're discussing specifically a video that I found from a channel called Ragnarok's and put up links and so forth. And the video was titled The Nietzschean Gameplay of Resident Evil 2 2019. And I thought it was quite well done. I like the crap out of this game. Spoiler, as of now, it's my number one game of the year so far. So I thought it was a really well done video and some interesting points. And I made my fellows watch it. And also, we've each played a bit of RE2. I played probably the most. I actually platinumed it. But we played enough of it, I think, to discuss it. And yeah, so in the video...
Did you get to the tofu level?
Yeah, I tried it. So I beat Lone Survivor, Last Survivor, Hunks mode. And then I tried Tofu Survivor, and I could not get past that one. Luckily, though, there's no achievement for it, so I didn't fucking have to. But I did do everything else. And
it's a personal achievement.
Even the 14,000, sure. Even the 14...
Yes,
no,
I did
really?
Carbon Footprint. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to that in a second.
It is fun to watch, the tofu mode, but yeah. I don't know if I would ever play it.
It's just super balls punching it hard.
It's delicious.
However, it sort of does culminate, so we'll go back to the beginning, right? The whole point of the video is that the way Resident Evil is set up, now, Ragnarok himself claims, like, he's not saying, like, Capcom, like, consciously did this. Right. It's just that the way the gameplay loops are and, like, how the enemies are and how they escalate it sort of, like, pushes you forward to be better, like, learn new tricks. They introduce one thing and you sort of get used to it. And then they throw something else that sort of throws you a loop. Then, okay, you get used to that. And then, as you allude to, Mr. X stomps in and shows up. Now you got that to deal with. And it's all just training you, like, how to strategize and, like, learn the systems and get better and better. And like, and go and strive for like harder and harder things, like doing hardcore playthroughs, like doing, so Carbon Footprint is, for anyone who's unfamiliar, it's an achievement where you have to, the game keeps track of every step you take, like literally, like how many moves
you make.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting to that. But there's one for doing it like, I think it's 14,000 or less, or something like that. And you're like, holy shit, like, that's fucking impossible, but it is not. I tell you, and I did it.
Yeah.
So let's just start from the beginning. The opening of, there's going to be a bunch of spoilers for the game, so just be prepared.
Yeah, if you don't want spoilers for Resident Evil 2, the remake, don't listen to this until you play it.
Try to keep them vague, like mostly gameplay stuff, not quite story.
The only thing you really need to know is that Mr. X will give it to you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we spoil everything.
In the worst way possible.
I mean, we just ruin
It's
everything.
been out for a while anyways, but regardless, just if you haven't got to it, just warning. So, it starts off with Leon's in a gas station. You can play either one, but you're in a small gas station and you fight your first zombie. Now, normally, the point I like is that if you're a gamer, even casual, you've seen zombie games, lots of them before, and you're trained to what? Shoot them in the head and it should drop in one shot, right? And in Resident Evil...
Well, its attempt is to disabuse you of your preconceptions about how zombie survival works in these games.
Exactly. So like from the word go, it's sort of like subverting your expectations / your learned behaviors for a certain kind of enemy.
What I found interesting, and this is what's going to be a reoccurring thing for me, is to kind of compare it to, like, the reason this is one of my favorite games, period, end of discussion, as somebody who's also an avid horror fan, the reason I think 1978's Dawn of the Dead is the ultimate zombie movie is because I've noticed the stages they were talking about with RE2, what Capcom did, and what they do with slow moving zombies as opposed to fast moving zombies. And one of the things was, I noticed because he said, you got to get used to the shooting. Sure. But when you get used to the shooting, you also have to realize it takes more than one bullet. But I was like thinking, I'm like, yeah, it's like Dawn of the Dead, where they give you certain characters, if you're not a member of the SWAT team, have to learn how to shoot. And it's not just a matter of learning how to shoot a zombie. It's a matter of not shooting the people you're with while you're trying to take out. No, what I'm saying is, so it's going to be a parallel run, because to me, I think it was fascinating. The more I was watching this, the more I'm like, wow, it's applicable to the best.
Yeah.
It's the highest compliment I can give it.
Well, I don't mean to derail, I think, what you're intending to do here, but to build off of what Chris said, because it started off with slow-moving zombies were scary. Then they became cannon fodder.
Right.
And
exactly.
the kind of more action horror took over for zombies. So then they had to speed them up to make them dangerous again. And then they just became cannon fodder. So this is an attempt to return to where an individual slow-moving zombie can
still
be a
poses
threat.
a threat. Exactly.
They're making it more durable.
And yeah, exactly. And because of that, the Capcom shows why that slow-moving zombies are always the more dangerous, because they could be anywhere. And we'll get to it when sound comes into it. But yeah,
I think that's a really interesting point, and something that wasn't covered in this video, which I really wanted to mention, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it reminded me that I wanted to talk about this briefly. Anyway, is the way that they make slow-moving zombies more dangerous, and therefore playing into
Subverting
the point of the video, where it's like it causes you to become better at the game, is instead of making them move quickly, like on their feet, like be able to run at you, they have very unpredictable movements, which makes it
they shuffle
really
around
hard.
randomly.
Yeah, and their heads like wobble around in like unpredictable ways, so it makes it really hard to like kill them as fast as you could otherwise. They're coming like straight at
or that you
like
might
a normal human being. Like you can't predict their movement as though they're a normal human being. You have to kind of wait for them to like line up with your gun sights, which makes the slowness of their movement seem a lot faster because you have to wait.
Yes, exactly.
To get them in your sights before you can shoot them, which plays into the point of this video.
Until you get good.
Until you get good.
Until you start getting good. No.
But then we'll get to as they add flavors to it.
Yeah, so exactly right. So you start off with your slow moving zombie, you're like, oh, I headshot him. What? He didn't die? Now he's like lurching at you. Now you're like sort of like off put. Like you're sort of like not panicking per se, but you're sort of readjusting like on the fly, and you have limited resources, of course, like the whole time. Like I think you pick up like 6 bullets or whatever. So just from that intro thing, it trains you like, this is the way we're going to do our zombies. You're like, all right. You get to the police station, like, okay, I'm getting a little handle on this. I got a couple more supplies. Like, right, they might be unpredictable, but I can sort of like plan for that now. You mentioned the targeter thing. So the more you hold down the trigger before you shoot, like the tighter of a shot it'll be, right? So like you can try to take off like hip shots almost, but they'll be wildly inaccurate. Right. But you have to wait, and the zombies get shuffling closer to you. They're always coming towards you, slower than like a fucking 28 days later shit. But nevertheless, they're milling around. They're everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot of them. But eventually, let's say like the first third or so of the game, as the video points out, you're sort of getting used to like, okay, I'm falling into like a pattern, like not comfortable, but like I can handle this, right? Like I'm good. Then the game throws at you the lickers, which are a famous enemy. They're very fast moving. They crawl along the walls. They're super fast compared to the regular zombies, but their big gimmick is they are blind. So a strategy might not be to blow them away or shoot a zombie near them, because the lickers are also very dangerous and hard-hitting enemies. They'll be on your ass in a second, but now the game is teaching you a new mechanic, a new layer. If you stealthily, or at least don't run near them, but walk fast and don't shoot, you can get by them without even having to have a combat encounter.
And one of they do point out that with regard to, and this is one thing I like draw parallels to, like some of the better ones, like, you know, there's an excellent movie called The Dead, and, you know, obviously the original Dawn of the Dead is that you may not be able to hear them, but they can hear you. And part of the dynamic is not only can they kind of trained you, because he was saying it before the lickers came out, you know, there's always going to be a hidden zombie that maybe you can't hear, so you got to be
Or you
quiet.
can hear it, but it doesn't pinpoint its location
where it
either.
is. But now that you got the lickers in it, you really have better gotten used to the fact of not making as much noise, because now you've got something that can move fast.
It's a cheetah compared to like the sort of lurching, again, shambling zombies. So you got that. So like, okay, I'm dealing with it. I think I got a hand on the lickers. You can still fight them, of course, like straight up, and you can kill them. It's just that a better strategy, by and large, is probably to avoid them, or like go around them, or, you know, lead them around, trick them.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
This goes to all you guys, because everybody got to the point where they fought the lickers in this game. How many lickers before you got to Mr. X? How many lickers did you kill?
One, maybe. I think I had to.
I thought you were going to ask how many licks.
How many licks did it take to get to the center of the Mr. X?
The center of Mr. X?
Well, let's not find out.
Never mind.
Because I think you encounter 4 or 5 of them.
Here's the thing,
Like
for-
half a dozen, something like that. Yeah,
I beat Resident Evil 2, the original.
the old school one.
So I remembered how to deal with liquors.
No,
So-
yeah.
I adjusted well to them in the
Okay.
game because I knew the mechanics going in.
Because you had some like old familiarity
Yes.
with it a bit, sure.
I went into this game, I never played Resident Evil 2 all the way through, and I went into this game trying to kill everything I encountered,
Yeah.
which
It's a bad move,
I
dude.
found out way too late that it was a terrible idea. When I was like out of ammo, there were a bunch of dogs, lickers, zombies, and Mr. X chasing me.
Mm,
And
about to get to him, but sure.
yeah, and like it was fucking crazy, but like, you know, I killed 2 or 3 lickers at great personal cost to my ammo
Yep,
and my health.
Mm-hmm.
Which I had to use a lot of my health items and a lot of my, like almost all of my ammo to do it. And I was like, okay, good, now this place is clear. But guess what? It doesn't fucking matter because there's always gonna be zombies around. There's always gonna be something around. Like there's always more lickers.
Just like
Like you literally don't have enough ammo to kill
Yeah,
all the
I mean,
shit in
it's-
that fucking.
By and
No.
large, sorry, just real quickly, it returns to its survival horror roots. It's literally impossible to kill every enemy in this game. There's not enough resources. It's a war of attrition. You're gonna fucking lose. I think they even said that in the video as well. But I'm saying, like, because of that, it sets up the fact that, like, you have to sort of force yourself or retrain yourself and push yourself further, getting by on less, or getting by in the bare bones that you are provided.
I disagree with that
Well, okay.
in the sense that one of the points they made is they brought up actually footage of The Witness, which I platinumed, and that
True.
it's not resource management per se; it's actual puzzle solving. That there is
That is fair. That is- I'll give you
each
that.
of these enemies has a method that you can beat them with, which goes to later on their points about all the trophies out there, which is that they're giving you rules and mechanics for playing
You're right.
the game, and that it's not resource management is part of it, but it's really about learning
Systems.
how to beat that puzzle.
It is fascinating. It's almost like function on top of function on top of function.
Exactly, and that's
In terms of
kinda
this,
what I'm
is
getting-
like every time a new enemy is introduced, it's like, oh, that bucks up everything that I was doing
Right.
on the previous enemy.
Exactly.
But that's the
I think
hallmarks
it's brilliant.
of a
Though.
good
Yeah,
puzzle
it's,
game.
it's a really brilliant way to do it.
I think I agree with both of you, and they point that out as well.
So The Witness was very famous for each area they would introduce a new concept. I told the story before on the podcast. I'm going to do it again. I used to have a sound off on The Witness, and I listened to like podcasts and
Right.
playing it, and I couldn't beat this puzzle. I had no idea how to solve it. And then I randomly had the audio on it, and I realized that, oh, it's an
Sound-based.
auditory puzzle,
Yeah.
which they didn't give a hint at. It just kind of, it's famous for just kind of
It's
they
just there, yeah.
slowly teach you the rules. But if you didn't know that have this, and that's the thing, is that, the liquors are an auditory puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, good Chris.
And it's I like the idea of creating a safer place because it's like anything else. It's like there's no safe place. There's a safer place. And
Sure,
like
that's a good point.
in like movies, you have other things that if you don't want to like level up with monsters or action, there's other things where you're trying to create. You may find a safe place, but it's a safer place. And one of the things that I love,
It's all relative safety.
yeah, it is. But the thing I love about it, and this goes to the puzzle thing too, is that you are allowed that I don't remember this in the first time I played it, like back in 2001, when RE2 came out. But this time they
No.
give you,
No, it's the wrong date, but doesn't matter.
well, whatever it was, 2000,
90s,
whatever.
I think.
No, it's like 97 is
Yeah.
when.
Well, I played it in 2001.
All right.
But,
Regardless.
they had the, boards that so you could board up the windows,
Mhm.
but they didn't give you enough to board every window.
Yeah.
So you
True.
kind of had to, okay, part of the puzzle, which hallways am I going to be using the most?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way that they, you've got the safe rooms, which are absolute safe rooms, but everything else is creating a safer space.
Not all
Well-
safe rooms are the safe rooms. And this
We're
is
getting to it,
back in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis,
Yeah.
where I was
There's a
running
famous
from the
J.E.
Nemesis,
story.
found a safe room, put myself in it, saved, but my health was low, my ammo was low, and Nemesis was outside, so I actually had to restart the game because I couldn't get past Nemesis. He was just waiting
Trapped yourself
outside.
in a
He just
fucking safe
wouldn't
room.
move.
What?
He just wouldn't.
No,
move.
he was just waiting outside for me, until I left the safe room, and then he would kill me instantly.
up.
Yeah.
And I was foolish for being naive and not backing up my saves.
Some poor
but
planning.
Yeah. But no, my whole point is I appreciate the fact that they created a
Relatively safe rooms.
relatively safe rooms, but that goes to the point of the verisimilitude of a situation like this,
Sure.
where like you've got to account for all the different ways that your adversary can get to you, besides standing outside a safe room waiting for you to come out. No,
Just like life. Yeah.
just like that. But no, it's one of the things I appreciate. It just goes to the details that they go into. Like he was talking about, everything's basically a puzzle and a problem to be solved, and every time they do, they give you the skills necessary to go up there. Well, your home base, the police station where you spend a lot of the first act of the game, they give you all the resources to make it a safer place, including that, and you have to make sure you put the right things in the right places, because you can't bar every one of them, which will eventually allow a zombie or two to get in that you weren't expecting. So I really appreciate that aspect of it. So because in the first one, I remembered that once you cleared it out, you were basically running around by yourself.
Yes.
And so this one always kind of kept that you cannot see them, you cannot hear them, but they're out there. And if there's a vulnerable spot, they can come get you.
And the presence of. Say what you were going to say something.
Yeah. But I was going to say, in terms of the barring the windows or boarding up the windows, it seems like they do a really interesting thing here that probably most people won't notice. But the first couple windows that you can board up are probably some of the most important windows to board up. So, like, when you first find the boards, the first one that you stumble upon after you found them, if you're going through the game in the standard way that it kind of pushes you through, the first window that you get to that can be boarded up should be absolutely be boarded
sure.
up.
The one at the bottom of the stairs.
Yep.
And like yeah, exactly. So they do it in a really interesting way where it's like they give you the first couple where it's like, these are the ones that you should
they're
definitely
teaching
do.
you the way to solve it.
After that, you need to be a little more cognizant of where you're boarding windows and like where you've been, because like at that point in the game you haven't been through a ton of the game yet, so you don't know what's.
You're not as familiar with the layout.
But by the time that you get the boards that, like by the first time that you like the first window you stumble upon after you find a set of boards that you probably shouldn't do that one. You know where you're going. You know what the most traveled paths are.
Exactly.
And I think that's really interesting, the way that they level design that way. I think it's really kind of a brilliant way to do it.
It's fucking spot on, and like it ties into the puzzle solving thing. It teaches you like a very easy to grasp mechanic, but it takes a bit more of let's say few laps around the track, if you will, to figure out like the optimal ways to do it. And that's actually pretty good, because I don't think the video mentions like the boarding thing at all, but it certainly ties in. But what it does mention, I'm gonna try to segue a bit. The sound design thing, the lickers are based on sound, right? So the sound design, a la The Witness in Res Evil, like you cannot do that. You have to have the fucking sound on for this. So it ties into the next. All right, you handle the shelving zombies. Okay, I can handle them. I can run around them. I can kite them a bit. I can spend resources here. Another quick thing is that you can, if not kill them, you can dismember them. Yeah. So you can kneecap them or whatever. So now they're crawling. All right. I know that I can, sneak through the liquor, or maybe I'll take down just one liquor here, so the hallway's clear of them, but the other one in that other room, I'll just keep sneaking by. Then, about another 20% into the game, famous, boom. Mr. X time, there starts to give it to you. So yeah.
DMX bursts through.
Yeah, he crashes in, he fucking shoves. It's a big menacing scene, like it's to set him up as a fucking Terminator-like figure, right? He incessantly chases you around. He's not running at you. Like, it's somehow more like intimidating.
Yeah, it is. And
Terminators you.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is well, two things before you get off the sound completely. He does recommend playing without the music, and next time I play it, I am definitely going to play it without the music. Well, that's for one
specific instance.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting to after this, yes.
Yeah, but that's one thing that I'm like, I really want to play it without the music. And
it really does ratchet up the stress.
And the thing I like about Mr. X is well, besides that,
cute little hat.
Well, it's kind of it is kind of a one-man representation of the horde. In other words, you've got slow-moving zombies out there, but you can't have a whole horde of them chase you around. Well, you could, but it'd be annoying. So you have the one thing where you can shoot him, and no matter how much you can slow him down.
But he never dies.
He never
cannot
dies.
kill Mr. X.
And it's just like if you're out, it's just like, if you look at Night of the Living Dead, it's just like when they get on you, they can tear down all your windows and everything. Sure. Here's Mr. X, who, until you go to a safe room, or a safer,
both of those
safe room. No, what I'm just saying is, I think he's a good representation of
sort of
By the way,
symbolizes
as
that,
a little aside, I think that was a brilliant move by. I know that Mr. X is very much more important to the new game than he was, or like
In
more
fact, I forgot he existed in the old
pervasive.
game.
So did I.
I did not forget,
Then-
but the way he used them.
than
yeah,
he
good.
was in the old game. But like, I think it's a brilliant move to make him represent the Horde because it's way less. It's using way less resources as a developer, right? Like, it's using way less resources to have this
On the tech
guy
end,
chase you around than like, 20 zombies or
Yeah.
whatever.
Also, you're in narrow hallway, so like
Yeah.
it wouldn't make sense on either front. Like, it's helpful both ways. But for sure, right? So, but the thing with Mr. X is he also produces very booming like footsteps, right?
Oh my god!
It's fucking intimidating.
worst.
You can hear them from everywhere, even if like, you are in a safe room, which are yes, they're. He cannot come in like certain rooms, like 2 or 3 of the rooms, one of them being safe rooms. But you can hear him stomping. But it's done so well that you can hear him stomping away.
He'd be a
so
floor above you, and you hear him.
Yeah.
Fucking yes.
So now you have that, right?
So stressful.
So Steve had a good, he got himself into a bit of a pickle. So why don't you tell us about that specific instance? You've handled the zombies. You're like, got a little grasp on the liquors. Now Mr. X is running amok and
Yeah. So you go down, you fight the first like real boss, and X comes out after that. So I'm trying to remember the exact thing, but like at some point I used basically all my fucking ammo, and I'm in a room with like. I think there are 4 dogs. I think I killed 2 of them using the rest of my ammo to kill 2 of them. And there's just 2 dogs like running at me, like nonstop, like trying to like weave between them. I get out, and this is after I've sprung Mr. X
I meant the dogs, yeah.
as well. As after I sprung Mr. X, I get out in a room, and Mr. X is like fucking there waiting for me. I'm like, I have nothing. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, I try
You guys
to like,
fucking walled yourselves into.
I try to go
the
past
catacombs.
him to get to the safe room which I know where it is, and like I have to go right past the liquor, but I'm like running away from Mr. X. I think the dogs stay in that room, so I don't think they were a problem.
Dogs
but,
can't
like-
open doors.
Yeah, exactly. So like they stay in the room. So, but like
I bet dogs can.
Dogs can't look up.
I had to run out of that room to get away from the dogs, run right into Mr. X,
Mhm.
and I probably take a fucking punch to the face from Mr.
Gave
X
it to-
because he gave it to me, and then
Knock, knock.
and then I like run right into a liquor who's like chasing me down a hallway as I'm like sprinting, trying to get away. I think I got into the save room with like very little health left. I didn't have many health items, so I was trying not to take them, and like I stun locked myself into like basically
It's
not
impressive, man.
not playing this game anymore because like just this is I attribute all of this to the sound design of the game. Like anytime I like stuck my head out the door, I could hear X walking around. I know that there's a liquor like right around the corner, and like it was so.
And liquors make a unnerving
terrifying.
noise too, in a different way than Mr.
Yeah,
X.
exactly. So it's like I want to go back and play this game again and start over because like the
You should.
place that I'm in right now
It's a bad place.
in my save, and like I have previous saves, but I don't want to go to those either because I know I'm just going to run myself into the same problem. But like the place that I'm in right now is just so like I could probably get past it. I could probably do it. Like I'd probably take one of my health items and like somehow like
Do a
work
Dark
out
Souls
how
run.
to like puzzle it out. But my first instinct in any of these games is to just fight my way out of things.
Blast
Like
everything,
when you
yeah.
say Dark Souls, like Dark Souls, like I just get good and like be good enough to fight my way out of it. But like I can't fight my way out of this.
Sure, that's
I literally
fair.
have to like run around all this shit or like sneak around some stuff, like run around some stuff. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it is.
That's a good there.
There's so many different
Yeah,
play styles that you have to
exactly.
do to like
Things to take
get
into
around all these
Mhm.
enemies that like it really and it is like I'm really impressed with the game. It drives me crazy that I get to this high stress level where I just don't want to play it, and I wish that I could get past it. But like it like the
But it's effective.
the next
at
time
doing
that I thought about picking up the game, I was like, I don't want to do this right now. Like it's gonna stress me out too much. So I mean that's my story of where I stopped.
To bring it back to the gentleman's conversation, do you buy the Nietzschean interpretation, or do you think that it was unnecessary to the greater point he was making about being a puzzle game?
I buy it to an extent, I guess I'll say. Now, I didn't have that thought myself. Like, and again, he admits like he's not claiming that it's like
Designed to be
yeah,
Nietzschean,
exactly
yeah.
that they had that thought in mind making it. But I do like, of course, I like it as an angle, and I do think there is something to it because he made a couple points where I'll get to this one, but I'll tie it in together, right? So, safe rooms plus Mr. X. Once he's unleashed, your first instinct, like mine was, and he pointed out, Ragnar, I believe, said it, is so, I'll run to the main hallway, which has been trained to you in the systems of the game to be a safe place.
What is that? A Nietzschean
Well,
mechanic?
I'm getting to it.
All right.
Right? So you go there, you're like, and then Mr. X violates that. So now it's forcing you to, again, change up. Yeah, it's forcing you to overcome the conventions that already exist to be a better player, a better combatant, if you will.
Because I can state that the Freudian interpretation of Resident Evil with the liquors, obviously.
Everyone wants to have sex with their Mr.
Sure.
X.
Mr. X as the patron,
Mr. X is
as
everyone's
the father
mom.
figure that
Mr.
they
X
have
is going to
Sure.
give it to you.
All right.
He is the patriarchy attempting to.
Sure. He represents that.
So you can throw in any philosopher into any.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like,
So that's the thing is, I didn't think that. I liked the guy's essay. I don't think he made it strong enough.
was it necessary,
case
you're saying?
for a Nietzschean interpretation of it?
I kind of see what you mean, like, as well. So I like the idea of it. I don't know if it's completely necessary. I would say it probably is not, but I like applying it and to the design of it. But you're right, like, certainly, like, you can probably, like, attach a number of other things and
See,
be
I
like,
was expecting a little bit more Nietzsche and not as much and delve into the gameplay mechanics. I enjoyed the essay,
Sure.
and I think he makes a lot of good points. It's just that, to me, I hate to use this term, but it was almost to me clickbaity-ish to draw people in with
Sure.
a Nietzschean interpretation,
Cool.
and then overall
that's
I
a
didn't
fair
come
point.
across with it.
And I kind of did that. I think they got me with it, but I think he did a good job with it. I enjoyed their
By
analysis
no
of
means
it.
am I saying that it was a poor.
And I think there is
I think-
something to be said, but it might not be, again, yes, 100% necessary, I suppose. It's the
I think
answer to your question.
I think that to a large degree, you're right. Like, this didn't need to be a Nietzschean interpretation
Bent
of
to it.
Resident Evil 2. But I think that it seems to me that the Ragnar wanted, like, just, is into Nietzschean philosophy and wanted to give a little, like, nod to it. And, like,
That's the thing, there's a nod to it.
I don't
That's-
blame him for that by any means. Like, if you want to fucking do that, that's fine. Maybe I don't think that it was clickbaity for the sake of being clickbaity. I think that he just wanted to do that, and like it turned out to
It was
be
more of a
like,
passion thing.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe there wasn't like this direct analogy to Nietzschean philosophy, but like. I think that he makes enough decent points. So like he draws enough comparison to the Ubermensch argument.
Yeah.
That it's fine. It's not like
It's what you-
yeah.
That's basically how it comes
Yeah.
down to.
I mean,
I think.
I haven't read much. I haven't read really any Nietzsche. I just know what I absorb through the planet, whatever.
Through the planet.
Through the planet, whatever the fuck, through society, from whatever, through the zeitgeist. Thank you. But one of the things that I did find interesting, and I'm always one of these things, I unless an action film is something that's like a ballet, like Mad Max Fury Road, most of them to me are boring. Like, like any horror game that devolves into an action movie, anything like most of my favorite superhero movies aren't based upon action. I think he really ratchets it up in his discussion as to through all this, creating the skills and the puzzles and the Ubermensch and all that stuff. It is one of those things that when you create a narrative like this, when it's whether it's this game or anything else, when you can create a narrative where it is a matter of whether you as a protagonist or watching another protagonist or protagonist overcome things and then provided with challenges that are organic to the world as opposed to having to devolve into a, hey, we have nothing else to do. Let's have a car chase or a chase scene or whatever. I found really interesting the mechanics of this game and to the points he brought up, with just as a general comment on narrative itself, and that it like in terms of a storytelling point, they're not having to. I mean, there are a couple parts where you're like,
I mean, it's small scale. You're in a
Yeah.
fucking cop station overrun by zombies. Like, granted, that might not be the most realistic thing, but it also is not Michael Bay over the top, I guess.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying is I found this game interesting because,
Sure.
and I think he did a really good job pointing out the narrative. Like, I'm not answering your question because aside from the quotes you put out there, I know nothing else about Nietzsche. But
Thank you.
By the way, are we going to yelled at again for mispronouncing
Probably.
Nietzsche's name?
what is
Was
it?
it Nietzsche or whatever?
Nietzsche?
I forget.
It was Nietzsche.
Somebody yelled at us.
I will say this.
at
what's
some
fine.
point.
One final comment on
One
is
jerk.
the description of the video just says, "Thus spoke Mr. X."
Yeah.
Did you see that? Sorry.
Thus must
The description says, "Thus spoke Mr. X." Like, yes, that's a funny reference to me.
Yeah.
But not to like it's fine enough, but I do think the points that he makes about the design, whether or not they're Nietzschean in origin or not, like still stand. And I do think I'll tell my personal story. Like as I played more of it, I was like, shit, I'm loving this game. I'm gonna fucking platinum it. I set out to do it. Like there's a certain point, and that as a personal side is for me like a mark of a great game that I love, and that's
So
why
you
it sits
became
at
the
number one.
Ubermensch.
Yeah. So like I did. I was like, all right, I'm gonna play it again on hardcore. I became the Resident Evil Ubermensch, we'll say.
Right.
It's a very narrow
It's a narrow
category.
Nietzschean
But no,
category.
for real, like once you get a handle on it, once by the end, you've been thrown all these things, you've learned the systems, you've learned the puzzles and way to solve them, you figured out which boards to use and which windows. You figured out, you mentioned the dogs, I didn't even mention that. They're the fast moving enemies
Yeah.
that are different than all the other ones. They're like half Licker, almost half, not half Mr. X, but
They can see you.
Yeah.
They're much easier to kill.
they're not as tough as the
Yeah.
Lickers, but they're much faster for sure. So yeah, there's another, like, again, another wrinkle that you're dealing with and overcoming. And by the end of it, you've seen all there is to game to throw at. You're like, okay, I got this. And then if you do all of the 4 scenarios, A, B, Claire, Leon, back, reversed,
Yeah.
then, this was also in the original, but he was mentioning you have the Herc mode where it's just like a gauntlet.
Hunk mode.
Hunk mode,
The
sorry.
hunk mode.
I keep saying Herc. I don't know why. Herc is the guy from fucking Far Cry. Hunk, yes. So it's just like, it's a small slice. May take you like 15 minutes to get through, but it's brutal, man. It's
Yeah.
every enemy in the
It's
game.
an overall test of the skills you learn.
Exactly.
throughout the entire of the
Now that you've
game.
become the uber evil mensch, if you will, right? It's throwing all the shit at you. You know how to deal with each of these things individually, but now they're all mixed up. They're all like, from the word go, you're dealing with like hardcore enemies.
Yeah.
And the
Right?
thing I like about this game, and I think again goes to the narrative of this or any good game or any story, is that like in this game, even when you get to the place with the plants and so forth, where you have the
The ivy things, yeah.
yeah, and I was thinking about the sewer creatures too. They have one thing where you have to face them, and then the rest of the time, even the sewer monsters, which are a pain in the ass,
the chud.
the chud,
The
yeah.
chud?
Yeah, I think they're the proto T-virus or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying is with the things you learn in terms of like knowing when to knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, knowing when to shoot them, and when to
And with the dodge, yeah.
it's the dodge is something
Shoot and shuffle, boys. Shoot and shuffle.
which is something they keep up. It's not like they forget about it.
Yeah,
It's
no.
always there.
It's yes,
Oh, yeah.
yep. Kenny
I'd like
Rogers,
to see him
Kenny
in
Rogers
Resident
zombie
Evil.
style.
Kenny Rogers.
But no, you're right,
okay.
Chris. Like I do think it's a good point. Is that it never lets up. It never lets you get comfortable.
Zombies.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't. Right? You're comfortable with X, Y, and Z enemy. Now you're doing the sewer enemies. Then you become comfortable with that. Now you're like you're less. You have more ways to deal with them, or at least know the optimal ways to do so.
But
right?
because you don't know what's going ahead, it's just like, okay, sneaking around is always a good option.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like it throws this at you. So okay, I got a hand on this, and now this, and all these like moving parts, moving systems, as I reference, and it just like it prompts you. I think is their point to become better, to overcome your shortcomings. Like I think Ragnar himself mentioned that he almost, he was like, I almost considered quitting it because I was in a difficult spot and I wasn't sure I was going to get through it, but I sort of like buckled down. I was like, all right, I'm going to get through it. And now it was so satisfying to get past that part.
I will say, even though it's a game like this isn't true with all games that I probably quit more. Well, I certainly quit more games than you. I feel
Mhm.
like you play all the games all the way through, but like this game has stuck with me, even though I stopped playing it months ago.
Came out in January.
Like, I
of
think
this
about
year,
it
my
every
friend.
once in a while. I'm like, I should get back to it. Like,
You see,
know?
mark of a good game. Like, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, again, not forcing, but not Nietzscheing, but you think like I could do it if I really wanted to. You know?
I mean, since we've been doing this podcast, there's a lot of games I keep coming back to, and RE2 is one of them. And RE2, like
Yeah, man.
when I watch the original gameplay, I'm like, wow, I'm like, I'm sitting here looking at the graphics for the remake. I'm like, oh, yeah, they seem to be about the same. And you look back, I'm like, oh my god, it's like
They're not at all.
it's like amazing how like over certain times you forget.
And can't you? I'm looking forward to the time when we look back on these graphics and like, how terrible.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
I was about to say, can't wait till we get to the
at
third.
At that point, it
remake.
was just like pure fucking virtual reality.
It'll be VR, exactly. Well, so quick aside, you mentioned that there was they gave it a free little like DLC. It wasn't even like a skin pack where you could have the old school like blocky polygonal Leon and Claire in like everything else looking modern. So I fucked on with that. But I think I'll bring it home. The last part of the video is the achievement thing that we mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
So you've gone through it all. You've faced this. You've done hunk mode. You've maybe done Tofu Survivor, which is also like from the original 2, where you just have knives and stuff. Like it's even harder than hunk mode.
And you look like a block of tofu.
Yeah, you're a
It's
giant
fucking
block of tofu. Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's like a jokey thing, but like you try playing that mode, man, it's gonna kick
no
your
joke.
fucking ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of that, and then some of the achievements. Yeah, I think there are 3 or 4 like ones that on paper, you're like what the fuck, right? So one is don't use any health items at all. The whole playthrough, or one playthrough, at least one
Did you do
scenario.
that?
Yes, I did. I platinumed it, so I did all of this stuff. One was don't use the item box at all. And like as I mentioned, that forces you to rethink a lot of shit. You have to know in advance like what items I need to keep with me to do puzzles, like story necessary items, and what supplies you're just gonna carry around. Like, oh, should I take the board, or do I really need that board? I know where the zombie's gonna come through at this point. Like after 4 or 5 run-throughs of it,
Yeah.
right? And then there's one take 14,000 steps or less. That one was a bit not hard, but like I kept obsessively checking like the counts of it. I'm like, oh shit. Sometimes I was like, oh, well, I took too many steps in that room or in this boss fight or whatever, so I'm just gonna reload. So there was that one, and then the beat it on hardcore with both players as well, which requires you to do it under a certain time. Like you have to know like exactly what to do, where to go, and to make it under the 3 whatever's. I think it's 3.5 hours or something like that. Right? You have to get through the whole game, or again, a scenario. Not speed running per se, but you got to know what the fuck to do. Otherwise, you're not going to make
You gotta
that
get
time.
through in 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
God,
One of them, just one of these scenarios.
Still, that's fucking fast.
But yeah, I mean, at that point, it was like 8 or 9 playthroughs that I'd gone through, right?
Yeah.
So I knew I was pretty confident. I was the uber evil mensch, like I said. I knew where to go, I knew what to do.
Would Nietzsche, however you pronounce the name, would he
Good old Freddy.
consider this what he was talking about?
Probably not. I admit that. Yes.
would his mind be? Would Nietzsche perhaps become completely addicted to video games
In order
if
to
they had
better
been
himself.
available and never written any of the philosophy works that he wrote?
Maybe.
I like to think so.
Who the hell knows?
I like to think that video games would have ruined Nietzsche's life, but for the better.
For the not for humanity, but for him.
Yeah. We wouldn't have had his great works, but he would have had a hell of a time playing Resident Evil. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, so I think that's pretty much it. Again, it's a very interesting video to
And
me.
who playing Resident Evil now could have done something good with their life if they
weren't
waste
doing
their
Resident
time?
Evil, yes.
Yeah.
So again,
question.
do both.
Viewer.
Overcome your Resident Evil hangups, and then also be a philosopher like Nietzsche. Produce works like him. But no, I mean, I like this video quite a bit. Like I said, we'll give him a shout out,
Dropping knowledge.
give him some props. And as I said, Res Evil, the remake, is one of the best games I've played, not this year, just in a while. It's the new standard for remakes, and I'll probably reiterate all this when we get to Games of the Year. But no, I thought it was an interesting idea. Now, E, as you pointed out, is it necessary to call it the Nietzschean gameplay? Maybe not.
My
But-
final thought on it is I wish it was a little bit more academically rigorous in him making his case for that.
Why it should be.
Because it was kind of a neat idea. I just think that it was more of amusing than it was an actual philosophical
Like
discussion
hardcore Evans.
on it.
And I
And I
again,
kind of wish it was, especially since he titled it thus. It went in with
Thus
me
spoke.
with thus spoke
Ragnar.
extra
Ragnar.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of going in. I expected a little bit more, and it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be.
that's fair.
Not to say that it wasn't a good discussion, but I just
Right.
think that.
It wasn't like as closely tied as you might thought it would be or like it to
But
be.
then again, would we have watched the film if it wasn't named that? Or
Probably not.
I probably wouldn't have. So yeah, to be fair,
Clickbait.
it was a good title and had covered it well enough, even if it wasn't a like more tightly knit relationship to the material.
I guess my final thought is this: as you just mentioned, despite the fact that I didn't finish the game, I really loved what I played of it.
But you still want to.
And if you're gonna do a reboot, don't make the original game. Make a game that makes you feel like you're playing the original game with more to it. Like that's exactly what this was. Like it felt like
It's the best reboot
it felt
ever.
like such a good reimagining.
Yes.
They went back to the original game and said, "Oh, what can we do better?
Yeah.
What have we
Yeah,
learned?
well, what works and what
have we learned
Yes.
since then?"
exactly.
Well, actually, one point that Ragnar said was that it took the best of all the Resident Evils and put them together into a
yeah.
culmination of
I
the
think that is
series,
true.
and that worked for me.
I agree. So yeah, again, check it out. The video, both, and also I highly recommend Resident Evil as well, if you haven't. And yeah, it was an interesting thing, and it was cool to talk about it, even if it wasn't. Some point down the line, perhaps I myself will produce something like it that does tie into more closely to the philosophy that you like, and is more pertinent. But I think that will do it for this episode. It's again sort of our Halloween tinge/themed games episode, and I think we'll call it a night here. I've been Scott Thurlow, of course, wandering through the hallways of Raccoon City with Stephen Amosi.
Y'all have a good night. Watch out for non-killing headshots.
And Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Go to my local Blockbuster and rent Resident Evil 2.
Mhm.
Have a good night.
And Chris Morgan.
I wonder if Ricard Strauss would like Resident Evil 2.
The world may never know. Good night. Thank you for joining the Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows and more, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.